have in the USA, Turkey, Korea, Russia, many others.
Cool. The meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. Starting, coming.
Are we ready to go?
Yes. Yes, we're good to go. Yeah.
Super. Michael.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Well, firstly, I just wanted to say thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Nordira, I really appreciate your assistance and allowing us to do this. This is fantastic. Just before the magnificent Chris Farrell is going to speak to all of you and go through his presentation and this webinar, I just wanted to give you just a little bit of information just about the schools where we're representing. We're from a group of schools called Centre of English Studies, CES. It's actually a family owned and run school. My mother actually started up the schools in 1979. She was an English teacher and drama teacher herself. So she started up the schools in Dublin, which is the very first school. And myself and my two brothers, Jonathan and Justin, work in the school, and we've been working there for a long time. Actually, yesterday was my 19th anniversary of joining the schools full time. Thank you, Chris. I'm very appreciative. I got a lot of messages about how old I suddenly look. But anyway, but this is just a little, I'm going to just give you a little presentation just about where we're located. I won't speak for too long because I know Chris has got a wonderful presentation for you to go through. So essentially we have, as I said, we have a number of different locations. We have schools in Dublin, London, Oxford, Worthing, Leeds, Harrogate, and Toronto. And as I said, we started up in 1979. There's a huge amount of different schools, as I said, that you've got different locations, such as the school in Dublin in Ireland. In the UK, as I said, we have multiple locations. We have on the south coast, Worthing, beside Brighton, which would be the more famous location. We have a school in Wimbledon, in London, a school in Oxford, a school in Leeds, a school in Harrogate, and then up in Scotland in Edinburgh. And then our newest addition to our schools is in Toronto, where actually Nordira is at the moment, which I didn't realize at the start. So we have a school in Toronto, in downtown in the main area of Toronto. As I said, from the different locations in the UK, you can see that we have spread across the whole of the country. So Edinburgh up in Scotland, and then Harrogate in kind of the centre of well, which would be really regarded as Northern England, and then Leeds, which is about 40 miles away or so from Harrogate, and then Oxford, which of course, hugely famous academic learning centre in the UK. In London, we're actually located in Wimbledon, so we're not in central London, but we're in the very famous area of the suburbs of southwest London, which is, of course, very famous for the tennis championships in the summertime. And then on the south coast in Worthing. We have a number of different, as I said, accreditations. We've been going for a long, long time. So we're obviously accredited for the teaching of English in the UK by the British Council, full members of English UK. I myself am one of the trustee board members. I'm on the Enterprises board. We're members of IALC. Actually, principal in Toronto is current president of IALC, the Association of International Association of Language Centres around the world. We're ACELs accredited in Ireland. We're also a Tier 4 licensed registered sponsored school in the UK, which means that we can do specialist long-term visas. We're full members of Equals, where my brother is actually the chairman of Equals at present, and we're also accredited by Languages Canada. Along with that, we have many other things like, you know, BELTA, which is a Brazilian Association for Quality Places, ALTO, Select Ireland, and then as well as that, we do a number of different examinations within the school. IELTS, which would be probably the most famous for university entrances across the world. We're the largest IELTS testing centre in Ireland. We do the UKVI British examination in Ireland as well for entrance into the universities, and we're main testing centre in the north of England. We do the PTE academic examination. We do the Cambridge examinations, so FCE, CAE, and CPE exams, and also the OET medical English examination, which allows students to come do OET and then get visas to work in, say, the NHS in the UK or HSC in Ireland. As I said, lots of different things. We've actually won European School of the Year as well, which was a great honor for us as a family-owned school. And again, we're finalists in 2020, in the year that just went. Basically, there's a lot of different things. We have a lot of different courses that we provide. I'm not going to go through all of the different locations because you've come for Chris's presentation. We do general English courses, examination programs for students, for adults and for juniors. But maybe what also would interest a lot of you who are here today is that we do teacher training programs. So we do face-to-face teacher training programs for overseas teachers where they can come to us, and we do Delta programs as well where you get the qualification to be a teacher of English as a foreign language. But because obviously of the COVID situation around the world, we've adapted all of our programs as well to be online. So we now offer overseas teacher training programs for online students. So you can be at home, you can do the program over a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever you require. And we also do the CELTA online program, which is fully certified by Cambridge University. So we do part-time CELTA over 10 weeks and a full-time CELTA, which is a 4-week program as well. And at the end of that, you receive your certificate from Cambridge, and that gives you the allowance to actually come and work for the likes of us in CES and for other language schools around the world. We do junior programs year-round from the ages of 11 years of age upwards. So we do, winter programs for juniors where they come and do, maybe 15 hours English classes a week, activity programs in the afternoon, and then summer programs. And actually that's where we used to receive quite a number of Uzbekistani students who come in the summer, smaller groups. We do lots of tours around London and Cambridge and Oxford, and we make sure that all the students get to stay in registered UK host families or residential accommodation. So we have a huge amount of different things to offer. But one of the big elements and the biggest element of us is the quality that we offer. And people like Chris, who is really in charge of our professional development and a lot of extra work, he builds up the teams of our staff and our teachers. And the strongest thing that we have is our staff and the quality that we are able to offer for the students who come into us. So I thank you so much for your time. I'm going to pass you over to my colleague, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Chris Farrell, and I'm going to let him go through his presentation. And I hope you enjoy everything. And if you do need to ever contact me at all, I'll put my email in a few seconds into the chat box, and I'm always happy to assist you in any way that I can, even if it's just questions about learning or academic things in the future. But thank you so much. I really appreciate all your time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael.
Stop the share. There we go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Nadira, will I share?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Super. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, just to quickly say, like another thing, in Leeds, I studied in Leeds, so that's my another home.
Oh, really?
Yes.
University there?
University of Leeds. Yes, I did my master's degree there.
Nordir, this is amazing. Come on.
I know.
Yeah.
We're destined
amazing.
to meet, right?
It's destiny, isn't it? Yeah.
Leeds is magnificent. I love Leeds. It's absolutely magnificent. Sorry, I'll shut up now. That's amazing.
Yes.
No, I think Leeds is beautiful. Leeds is very underrated, actually. A lot of people go to the south, but I think Leeds is, the countryside around Leeds is beautiful, and good food as well in Leeds.
Yes.
Hello, good evening to everybody. Just want to really quickly introduce myself. My name is Chris Farrell. I am the head of training and development with Centre of English Studies Group. So I look after all of the, as Michael said, all of the teacher training and the academic side, the professional development and stuff like that. Kind of externally from CES, I'm on the chair of the English UK Academic Advisory Group, and I regularly do extra work for Equals and stuff like that. So what I've been doing, especially in the past year, is really trying to figure out what's happening with the education profession. You know, where are we going with the English teaching profession, and what are the opportunities coming up in 2021 and 2022. So what I want to talk to you a little bit today is where do I think the profession is going, and especially online courses, and what I think is going to happen with online courses in the next 12 months, in the next 2 years, and what we can share in terms of our opinions and our experience in that region. I presume most people have experience in online teaching. Can I get a quick comment in the chat box, a Y or an N? Have you taught online? I presume this is 2021. Everybody has been teaching online. So just give me a yes or a no if you've been yes. And nobody else. Yes, yes, yes. And I presume what a lot of people will have noticed with online teaching is that it wasn't exactly a choice. It wasn't exactly a conscious decision they made to become an online teacher. We have what's called emergency online teaching, which is something which kind of happened to the sector last spring. So we're gonna look a little bit at that and how we feel about it. All yeses. So everybody has tried to figure out what a breakout room is and tried to figure out how you can actually motivate students in an online context. What we will look at today, we're going to look at education in general in 2021. So what is the current state of English language education, not only at a state school sector, but also in private sector and university? You know, where are we and where are we going into the future? I want to look at the emergence of synchronous online learning. When I say synchronous online learning, I mean live. I mean like we are in this case right now. If you would have talked to people about online learning 2 years ago, they would have talked about what are called MOOCs, these massive online these content courses, which were not supervised by a teacher and were not guided in any way. They were just a huge amount of content which you kind of had to wade through yourself. Whereas nowadays, when people talk about online learning, they very much are talking about synchronous online learning, and usually involving Zoom or Meet or Google Hangouts or something like that. I want to talk a little bit about tutored online English courses, and this is kind of a blend of both of the things which had been considered online. And I'll talk a little bit about the current tutored online English course, which we are running for the ETA in Uzbekistan, the English Teaching Association in Uzbekistan. Perhaps some of you are familiar with it, some of you have used it. And this is something that we're developing more and more and more and trying to perfect. So if you are already engaging in it, I would love your feedback, and I would love your opinion on how we could do this better, and we could offer this, as a more beneficial thing to you. As I said to Nadira, and I've said it a couple of times, we've spent the past year and even longer in developing materials and working in an online context, and we're just looking at how we can begin to develop this offering further, and what avenues for development are going to be useful, which are mutually beneficial, which allow us to use our resources that we've learned, and also allow us to get in contact with teachers from Uzbekistan, which mightn't otherwise have the chance to do certain language development courses with British schools, or who mightn't have the opportunity to, there's obviously a number of travel friction factors and stuff like that, which obviously will exist for another few months. So we're hoping to be able to, with our knowledge, with our expertise, and with this new tech, to be able to bring our courses to you in a way which will make it more cost effective for people, and also it will give us an opportunity to actually still use what we have. And then we'll look at the future, which is relatively positive, I think, for the teaching profession. And I think, although I don't know what the newspapers are like in Uzbekistan, but there's a lot of doom and gloom for the past year in the British and Irish newspapers. So I do think there's a massive amount of positivity going forward with the education sector. I do think that we've learned a huge amount in the past year, and I do think that we as teachers and as language school owners have grown a huge amount. And it's just about using what we have learned and not just going back to the same rhythms. It's actually taking what we've learned online and moving it back into the classroom and seeing how we can do that. So that's what I've been looking at in terms of teacher training, in terms of teacher development within CES and with wider teacher groups. So when I talk about education in 2021, there's a couple of different buzzwords which you come across again and again. I've mentioned before synchronous online learning. Synchronous online learning is live online learning, as I said, in Zoom. One of the big things with synchronous online learning is platform choice, and also your choice of material and your choice of VLE, virtual learning environment. I know a lot of our teachers have used stuff like Google Classroom, for virtual learning environment. And these are all questions and choices people had to make. One of the big things for me from a teacher's perspective with synchronous online learning was teacher competencies and bridging competencies between what a teacher is trained and able to do in a face-to-face class and then what they're required to do in a synchronous online class. And it was really, really important for us, and I guess it's important for you guys to think of models of best practice. So what does a good synchronous online learning class look like? And how can I become a good synchronous online teacher? So for us in the past year, it was about asking these questions. What does a good classroom look like? What can I not do? So what are the discomforts, I suppose, in this context? And also, what are the opportunities? So what can I now do that actually is going to make the quality of provision a little bit better? And these are all big considerations. One final thing with the synchronous online learning, and this has happened to the teaching profession as a whole. When we look at teacher training or teacher knowledge, we often rely on what's called our apprenticeship of observation. And our apprenticeship of observation is our years as a student observing what a classroom looks like and what a teacher looks like and what the academic context looks like. So we know before we become teachers, generally what a teacher should do, what a class should look like. You know, we have models of success almost built in during our apprenticeship of observation. Unfortunately, when it comes to online learning, a lot of us have not been students in an online classroom. So we don't actually know what it looks like from a student's perspective. We don't know what success looks like. We frequently don't know how students are engaging with material and how to motivate students and things like that. And they've been really big questions. They've been really big barriers to get over in the past year. And I do feel now, 10 months into this emergency online teaching routine, that we're more and more able to answer these questions and more able to provide satisfactory quality in our teaching provision. Second, there is what's called a socially distant classroom. I think this is going to become a reality to more and more of us as we go back to face-to-face learning. If you've already been back to face-to-face learning in 2020, and this is a classroom which with masks, a classroom where there's no mingle activities, a classroom where you know there's a smaller number of people or perspex screens. There's issues with interaction patterns and things like that. And again, that requires a rethinking of our teacher competencies and our teacher behaviors and how we're going to set this up. The good news is what we've noticed is, because we went back to class in the UK and in Ireland for a couple of months in the second half of 2020, and we've noticed that a huge amount of what we learned from the online classroom can be brought back into the socially distant classroom in order to make the lesson a little bit smoother. There's a lot of tech that you can use to encourage interaction. There's a lot of tech you can use to replace material handouts and things like that. So socially distant classroom is a big consideration, but it's not massive. It just requires a little bit of rethinking of some areas. Tutored online learning is what we're going to look at the moment. And tutored online learning is essentially what we've looked at is the friction factors which involve people engaging with education. One of the number one friction factor is time. Time to travel, time to take 2 weeks or 1 month out of their schedule to do this and to go abroad and whatever. And the second is money. And we've looked at how we can begin to reduce these friction factors in order to engage more students regularly, engage more teachers regularly. So tutored online learning would be a process, and it depends on what way the arrangement works. It would be a process whereby a group of students are enrolled on a course. They're assessed, so their needs are assessed, the language needs or their methodological needs or whatever, and the course is created based on their needs. And so we would have a bank of content, and also we continuously create content, and it would be bespoke course delivered for their needs. There would be certain deliverables, certain junctures where assessment happens. So if you do a couple of modules, you'll then be assessed on your success on these modules. As you do the modules, you can submit writing, or you can submit spoken recorded voice recordings or whatever, and these are graded and given back to you, and maybe graded or maybe assessed and given back to you. So there's a tutor in the background. It depends on the size of the course. Maybe the tutor does one live session every week. or one live session every 2 weeks or whatever. But it's very much bespoke content where the student or teacher is guided through the content, given some feedback, assessed, given some feedback, and the course reacts to them. And this means that they can engage with the content whenever they want. They're getting a quality provision, and they're getting feedback from a teacher, and they're getting everything they could get, to a certain extent, in an online class or in a face-to-face class, and they're just getting it on their own terms. So this is really where we want to develop more and more into this tutored online content, and it's something which we have been in the background developing content for, and we have been running a couple of different courses within the European Union on it, and obviously we're going to be doing more and more in Central Asia and beyond. Then the fourth possibility of 2021 is back to normality. My big question is what is this? What is normality? No, I don't know. Maybe by the end of the year, we will be, looking back on this period thinking, oh, that was crazy. As we sit in a restaurant or have a meal or whatever. So there are my four possibilities for 2021, just as a beginning. And I think potentially all of them are possible to some extent, depending on where you are. I want to look at your opinions. I don't know if you've used this before, but Mentimeter is pretty common in my online classes. If you have a phone or on your computer, if you could go to menti.com and use the code 7421097, and I just want you to put in, this is your crystal ball predictions. What do you think will happen in 2021? Your prediction can be as outlandish, as bizarre as you want, hopefully within the area of academia at least. But if you could potentially write down your prediction and just send it to this open board, that would be brilliant, please. So as I said, the code is up the top there. Thank you. 7421097 menti.com. This is also my attempt to integrate some technology and to see if teachers are aware of how to use Mentimeter. Mentimeter is kind of like a little bit more fancy Kahoot. I like to use Kahoot, but the students always think I'm playing a game when I use Kahoot, because if I use Mentimeter, they think it's a test. It has similar functionality, to be honest. It's crowdsourcing. So, and as soon as you type send, it should immediately send it to the wall, and we shall see it here. One hopes. Interested to see there's some very serious typing happening. I'm interested to see what predictions will emerge. Oh, there's a prediction in the chat. We hope the pandemic condition will end and start offline study again. This Mashura just really wants to start offline study. Back to normality is the way forward for you. Yeah, it's a strange thing, for us. It's been really March was the last time we were in a classroom that wasn't socially distanced, and we were shaking hands and hugging and everything else. It's been a strange year, very educational, but obviously not ideal. So we have no predictions apart from Mashura in the chat. Nobody has made a prediction on my page. So my lovely clean Mentimeter page is going to remain a clean Mentimeter page. We teachers should adapt to both modes. Oh, we've more in the chat. See, Mashura, look what you've started. Now everybody is just typing in the chat. And my lovely clean Mentimeter page will remain a clean Mentimeter page.
No, I think you have to refresh it because I just
added
mine. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I thought it might be me.
Yeah.
You did yours. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. It was just taking a little bit of a second. Oh, yeah. The world will start moving by October. Somebody is confident the world will start moving by October. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully that would be great. October, so that would be just in time for Halloween, coming into Christmas for us. Amazing. And massive vaccination, more travel opportunities, more people opting for hybrid blended learning. I'm very interested if somebody said hybrid learning, because it is something I want to talk about more and more. Let me see in the chat. Teachers should adapt to both modes. Yeah, it's interesting that you put the onus on the teacher should adapt to both modes and not the institution should train you to adapt to both modes. Because that's been a big argument, is frequently what happened in March, I know in our context, is that the teachers went online and the schools didn't really follow them. The schools were still thinking, what's happening online? What are the teachers doing? What does quality look like in the classroom? And the teachers were very much at the front line of trying to drive that change, out of necessity, driving the change. So I do think the schools must take some responsibility, and the accreditation bodies, everybody who's actually in charge of quality, should focus more on ensuring the teachers are prepared. I don't know what it's like in Uzbekistan, but teacher burnout is massive all over the world, where you change modes and you have these expectations that, just go to an online class, it will be the same, and it's not really. So we have to be careful, I guess, with that. I liked online teaching. It's very comfortable, saves time and money. I'm kind of the same. I never go for lunch anymore, so I'm kind of saving money on that. But I do want to get back to face-to-face teaching, and now I just make my own lunch. I think it's better face-to-face classes than online lessons. Yeah, perfect. Almost all tend to study offline. However, online courses have positive sides. Yeah, and I do think that online courses have kind of a negative reputation because there's been so many bad online courses, and it's really easy to do a bad online course. It's really easy just to throw a lot of grammar exercises and just go and do those exercises. And I think what people want, what students want, is to be able to engage with somebody, engage with each other in the community of practice, but also to engage with a trainer or engage with a teacher. Offline lessons, wow, I'm jealous. Yeah, okay. Let's move on. We're going to do another Mentimeter later on, so if you've got your Mentimeter page, keep it open. I'm very excited. I know everybody just disobeyed me and just did it in the chat anyway, so that that could be the way forward. Let me see, how do I go next? Yeah, so as I said before, when we talk about synchronous online learning, I guess it's the same in majority of other countries that I've talked to. They went to what's called EOT, the emergency online teaching, which was teaching online where we had no actual training to do it, and we frequently didn't have the materials. It didn't really know what was happening. We had to do it and learn as we were doing it a lot of the time, and there was a couple of different issues which arose in my context anyway. And that one that I mentioned before, those teacher competencies and teacher abilities, and that we had to train, we had to focus on. The technology, so the different platforms, the virtual learning environments, the content, how we're going to actually use that, and then the material. So what was considering, especially for younger learners, is ensuring that our material is always appropriate and stuff like that. These are just some small considerations for online learning, which don't exist if you have a staff room full of books, for example. So I just want you to think of opportunities, and you can put this in the chat, because I think you're gonna anyway. So for online teaching, do you think there are any opportunities going forward? Do you think it's something that you want to stick at? And do you think it's something that you can develop and you can become better at? And how could you become better at? No depression. Oh, no depression. Online teaching is better because you don't have to talk to students, maybe. That's an interesting one. Yeah, you can put them in a breakout room and you can say, I'll see you in 3 minutes. You can go make a coffee or something. This is my my secret.
Or maybe they mean the asynchronous online.
Yeah, with asynchronous, so you actually can.
Yeah, put it on Moodle or something, right?
Yeah. If anybody wants to put in any other chat, because I'm looking for positives. I'm looking for people who say, do you know what? I think I can learn how to be more tech savvy. If I continue online learning, I think I can integrate tech skills with students or whatever. Because frequently we look at online teaching with a negative eye and say, oh, I'm just in front of Zoom, and I'm just wearing my pajamas or whatever we do. So I'm going to let you continue to do that. Online teaching requires teachers to work harder. It definitely does. Online teaching requires teachers to work harder. digitalization is, I guess, a positive. Yeah, I do think so. I think online teaching requires more prep time. And this comes into the idea that we don't know what a good lesson should look like. So we almost over prepare sometimes. And we have some issues maybe with timing, assessment, and these are little things which we've been working on trying to fix and trying to find quick fixes, I suppose. It all involves in-class teacher research, and the teachers actually reflecting on what they do and what works, and actually working together to say, I've done that, that works, that makes my life a little bit easier, and step by step making our life easier and easier, hopefully. Anyway, it's just something to think of, the positives. There are positives. I'm worried about asking you another Mentimeter question now. And when we talk about moving to online learning, the three big areas that we considered, and I do think this is important when we look at face-to-face classroom, online classroom, or tutored online classroom. And the first one is content knowledge, and this is our knowledge of the subject. Okay, and all of you are saying, of course, I know English grammar, things like this. What we're actually looking at is skill development. Because in a face-to-face class, we develop reading skills, listening skills, writing skills, and we know what that looks like, okay? We know how we can assess success in these lessons. We do our content lesson, we do our reading task, we know what the skill looks like. In an online class, frequently, we don't know what the actualization of the skill looks like. We don't know how learners are going to show their success in the development of that skill. Does that make sense? And that's a big content knowledge gap for us, because we know the language, we know what the skill looks like in the real world, but we're not really sure exactly what the skill looks like in the digital world. So we don't know how learners are engaging with their listening, what they're doing in an online context. Now, we know a lot of it, but what we're trying to do is fill in those gaps and make sure that when we do set a learning outcome, that we can be sure that we know how to assess success in that learning outcome. When we talk about classroom management, we're talking about the fundamentals, monitoring, key teacher contact points, what we call key teacher contact points. A key teacher contact point is every time the lesson comes back to the teacher, what is the teacher doing? So every time the lesson comes back to the teacher, is the teacher giving instructions? Is the teacher giving feedback? Is the teacher giving correction? And how is that done in an online context? How is the teacher going to do that? Well, we've considered these for the tutored course and for the synchronous course. How is the teacher actually dealing with every time they intervene in the lesson? It's natural for us in a face-to-face classroom, but in an online classroom, it might require a little bit of reconsideration. And finally, there's lesson planning, and we looked a little bit at this. It's timing, it's getting appropriate learning outcomes, it's assessing success in appropriate learning outcomes, and things like this. And the big question we always ask is, are lessons easily transferred from face-to-face to the online classroom? We've probably already answered that. I think easily is the wrong adverb there. Does that make sense? That was a really whistle stop. So what we would usually do on a course, we would spend a day looking at these three and really digging into, what does it mean for you? But that's a kind of an overview of the three primary considerations for teacher knowledge in a classroom, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face. We also have to consider, and this is typically from the student's perspective, the friction factors of accessibility, technology, motivation, consistent motivation, and this idea of blending asynchronous and asynchronous lessons, the idea of blending all of these together to ensure that you're getting an appropriate, appropriate provision for the student. You're providing them with an appropriate lesson. When I talk about blending synchronous and asynchronous lessons, what I'm looking at is blending of the flipped classroom, in the sense that they have material to do for their homework, which could be teaching them the grammar point, and then in the lesson you might do practice exercises of the grammar point. So it's utilizing the synchronous and the asynchronous space equally. And what we've tried to do with the tutored online courses is go one further with that and try to make it more heavy with the asynchronous and have the synchronous stuff a little bit lighter and a little bit more of a scaffolded and supportive. And also we consider the tools that we're using. And the good news about What are friction factors? Good question. A friction factor is anything which stops you from easily doing something. So say for example, I want to get fit. You know, I want to be able to run a marathon, but the number one friction factor is I'm lazy. So that's stopping me. No. So I want to be big and strong, but the gym is too expensive. So number one friction factor is money for me. The gym is too expensive. Second, time. I have a baby. I don't have time to go to the gym all the time. So they're two primary friction factors, and they're not going to stop me. They're just going to slow me down a little bit. Does that make sense? So when I talk about friction factors in a lesson, I want the path to success to be clear, and anything that's in the way of the path to success is a friction factor. So for example, I found today, I did a lesson with an advanced group today, and my internet was bad, and that was a number one friction factor. I couldn't get a good connection with them, so therefore it was a difficult 20 minutes of the lesson. So that's one friction factor which is common in online context. Synchronous just means live. Synchronous just means live, so at the same time. So when I talk about a synchronous lesson, I mean something which is delivered at the same time. If I talk about asynchronous, it's something which you engage with on your own time. So when we talk about a typical blend of synchronous and asynchronous is classwork and homework. So typically synchronous is in class and asynchronous is your homework. And that would be the typical blend in a pre-COVID classroom. But now the blend has become a little bit more sophisticated. Does that make sense for synchronous and for friction factors? That answer the friction factor, friction, difficult to say, friction factor question. Okay. Tutored online courses, as I said, I think I'm not going to do another Mentimeter. I don't think it was as successful. So we're just going to go into the considerations for a tutored online course. When we talk about a tutored online course, what our number one concern is the needs of the student or the teacher. So if it's a language development course, the needs of the students. If it's a teacher training course, the needs of the teachers and how we can meet them. That's number one. The constraints is usually the constraints of their access. So for example, it could be internet. Frequently we cannot do so many Zoom sessions because people have bad connection, or we cannot do something because time zones or whatever. And the platform is easy to use. Google Classroom typically is the easiest to use. The content type, how we're going to actually deliver that content, what it looks like. The learning outcomes, so what we want to achieve in terms of what the learning outcome is appropriate for every lesson. What's going to be achievable within the time period. If it's a month-long course, if it's 3 months, what does success look like? What are our deliverables at certain points? So what's going to happen after a month? Are we going to do a test? What's going to happen after 2 months? Sustainability. One of the things we want to avoid is just kind of throwing a course at a group of teachers and not doing any sort of follow-up. So we want to actually create a community of practice and sustain their development or for students to ensure that they have access to some tools which help them continue learning when they're finished the course. And then the next steps for the student and for the teacher. So this is what we have considered for the TOC, the talks, not TikTok, nothing to do with TikTok. So when I talk about needs, I'm going to just show you exactly what we do. For a tutored online course, whether it's language development or teacher training, what we typically do is create an assessment in Google Forms. Really easy to use Google Forms, and it means that the participant can fill out their needs, whatever they want, and they send it directly back to us, and we can collate and use that to create our course. We can create a course which is multi-level. No idea what level the students are. And we can create one which starts off with A1 questions and it finishes with B2 questions. So we can grade where the student generally got the majority of questions wrong and see if we can create material based on that. That's easy to administer and collect the data. We want to also use in our assessment, and we do use language knowledge and language use. So not only do they know the grammar, but there's also a writing section to show that they can actually use certain language. And this is the same for teachers as for students. And we also collect data on their needs and their motivation and the purpose of them engaging with such a course. It's really important for us to have a stability, foundation of the needs, a needs-based course, that it's not just something which we give to students which is not relevant to their needs. So this is the platform which we have developed for the English Teaching Association in Uzbekistan CES Direct Learning platform. I can send you the link. I have a QR code, but I can send you the link as soon as possible. It's all available, and every week we put up a new lesson. The decision on accessibility on platform we made depending on the group. We chose WordPress for this. It was the easiest to host. We created learning outcomes and course timeline, very easy to do once we know the assessment and the needs of the group. We decided on whether we're going to choose live sessions or asynchronous. For this group, the teachers group was so big, we have no live sessions, but we have monitoring and tutoring in the background. And then finally, how we're going to deliver and engage with the content. And you can see how we've delivered it and how we've engaged with people on this platform when I send you the link, or maybe you're already on the platform. Step 3 is our deliverables, and we've considered a couple of these, and we continue to consider them. This is just one of the lessons there, the focus on quantifiers in session 2. Length of course, mid-course assessment. Actually, on this course next week is the first assessment week, and then monitoring of the course. And we have a couple of teachers in the background who are monitoring all of the participation on the course. This is really essential for us because there is no, as I said, there's no point just what we call info dumping or just dumping information on people. We want to make sure that they're engaging with it and then be able to support them through their engagement. Oh, finally, sorry if that's been a bit quick. When we look at the future of education, based on everything I've talked about, I think tutored self-study courses are here to stay. I think they're very intuitive. They're really useful for the teachers who are engaging, or the students who are engaging with them, and they're also useful for the institutions to actually have a way to utilize the knowledge and the content which they are constantly creating. And I think it's a win-win. The internet has a massive amount of tools that we can use and build into platforms like this in order to ensure sustainability of learning. Language learners and teachers are always looking for different ways to improve independently. And I think one thing which is massively missing in language courses is teaching students how to learn English themselves. We shouldn't just be engaging in teaching them grammar. It should be how they can begin to use and develop as language users. And the same with teachers. It shouldn't just be about training teachers. It should be about developing them and that sustainability of development. The final thing I wanted to look at was the role of the teacher, growing into the idea of a creator, a content creator, a curator, and that monitoring of student performance and give guidance and feedback. And I think this has become very common in the online context, and it will become more and more in the tutored online context and kind of in the classroom of 2021 and beyond, I think. So that was kind of a really quick run through. My daughter's saying goodbye to me outside. She's 15 months old and she just waves at me through a window all the time. She's a very independent young lady. She's been shouting at me for the past 10 minutes to say goodbye. And I've been like, I'm talking at the moment. I can't say goodbye. So now she's gone. I don't know where she's gone. She's gone with her mother. I don't let her out on her own, but she's gone. She's gone somewhere. So I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions, if that was possible. I want to just really quickly show you two things. I've got two things you can scan, and I'll send you the link if you want. If you just, I don't know if it works for my phone. If I just hold my camera over one of the QR codes, it scans for me. The first one is a YouTube page, which I set up last year to help teachers with some of the content that they can use in online classrooms and in tutored online classrooms. So that's just some video content on how to use certain platforms and certain content. And the second QR code is the CES Direct Learning platform, which we have used for this Uzbek ETA, the Teaching Association in Uzbekistan. So I'll leave them up there. If anybody wants to ask any questions, I'm open to trying to answer as much as I can. I like that somebody found a definition for synchronous online learning. I'm gonna share a link. I know some people might not have their phone, so I'm just going to share a link to the direct learning platform, just so you can go directly to it. Any major questions? You can turn off your mic and ask me questions if you want. That was an kind of an hour where usually we would that would take a lot longer. So I'd understand if people are a bit bombarded by everything.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Yeah, that was really, I think, thought-provoking. Yeah, there are a couple of things that made me think, definitely. So we have two questions on YouTube. One of them about the teaching children. Do you have any resources or suggestions, advice on how to teach kindergarten children?
Yeah. So you're talking kindergarten, you're talking age 4, 5, 6?
Yeah, up to 7 in Uzbekistan, right?
What we've found useful, and this is we actually don't have students that young currently, but what I've found useful in knowledge of what is happening in the industry in general, the BBC have created a huge amount of learning content for British school kids, and that's based on homeschooling and stuff like that. And if you go onto the British, I think it's called bite-sized lessons, I think they're called. But if you look, if you search for BBC kindergarten or BBC primary school lessons, there's loads of free content which they've created, which is available there, and I presume it will be available to use, for the foreseeable future. But that would be my recommendation, to you, because a lot of the material currently is not aimed at kindergarten kids, apart from some of the state broadcaster stuff like BBC, and I guess there's some in the United States as well.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, and the second question is about the online CELTA. I send the link.
Yeah.
But would you like to elaborate on that a little bit? When it happens?
Well, I guess you all the time.
Okay.
Basically, we were it's rolling, so we would do enrollments every month. Michael might be able to explain a little bit more. He looks
we have a basically, because we're a self-training center in Dublin, Leeds, and Edinburgh. What we've done during the COVID pandemic is we've utilized, normally we'd run about 12 face-to-face CELTA programs in each location every year. So what we've done is when we've moved to the kind of online virtual programs, we pool them. So effectively they could be run between the trainers, between the 3 schools. But if you go onto our website, and I'll put a link up to the actual page where the CELTA programs are, that actually shows you all the dates, and you can see that it's a kind of a evolving set of dates, where basically we would have online probably up until the start of the summertime, but realistically speaking, because the online has been kind of gaining such popularity, we will probably continue running the online. All of those course dates that you see on it will probably be running as online up until the end of the year. So effectively, and actually it's really interesting because we're able to do the teachers practice because we have all of our online classes that are also running. So the teachers will do their course content, and then we'll do teaching practice with our students that are in our online classes as well. So there's a lot of opportunities there for somebody wanting to do it. But I'll put the link up to it now on the chat.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any more? I know there's a couple of people with hands up.
Mr. Chris.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Hello. A voice.
Oh, Mr. Chris.
Hello.
My name is Abdulfer, and I'm from Tashkent. So I study at Oriental University.
Super.
And just in next month, I have to write this thesis just about the modeling economic of system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good at in English, but my level is between the intermediate and elementary.
Yeah.
Can I learn without any translations English? Any translations between my native language and English?
Yeah, of course.
Is it possible to
absolutely
learn?
We have students in our school who come in on day one with no English. All they know is the word hello. And we teach them from that. The techniques that we use in ELT and in a lot of our schools, actually a lot of the UK and Ireland and Canada, it's communication method. So it involves communication utilizing your L1 knowledge, so your initial language knowledge, to help you develop language 2, to take you through step by step the process. the question you just asked there, your English is, you know, it's at an A2 B1 level anyway, so you'd be, you know, you'd be right at home in our school. Does that make sense?
Yeah, probably some
Yes, of
technical.
course.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Mr. Chris.
Thanks.
Thank you.
There was one more question. There was a hand up I saw.
Yeah.
Anybody want to turn on their mic and ask? You're more than welcome to. Oh, somebody has a question in the box. Thanks to both pandemic period. Okay, so somebody says, thanks to both pandemic period and technology advancement, traditional classes will disappear soon. Can we guess? No, there's no way. Face-to-face classes are not going to disappear. It's just not happening. What we found is the appetite for face-to-face classes is actually growing. People want to get back and you know, Michael, do you want to say something on that?
Well, I was just going to say that one that we've had, and actually I spent 2 days talking with a huge amount of people. There was an English UK fair over Wednesday and Thursday, and actually seminars on the Tuesday as well. It's all about the experience. It's what like, it's not the language content. The program is one aspect of the travel. It's like, in some ways this is kind of educational tourism. People want to come to the UK. They know sites around the UK, or they know Ireland. They want to go to Canada. So learning the language, and I mean that applies really to every language. If you're going to learn abroad, you go, you do your course, but then you stay with the family. You eat the cultural, the food, the difference in the food. You go to cultural excursions. You meet people from other countries. You become friends. You're from Uzbekistan. You become friends with someone from Taiwan or from Brazil. It's everything. It's the language program. Actually, in my opinion, it's like a quarter of the whole package, and that's what we find. We get people who come. They come every year, even as group leaders, with their students, because they love bringing their students to improve their language level, but also to bring the students to go to see the sites and you know, famous areas of countries. It's just as Chris said there, face-to-face will always happen, and certainly for these kind of travel excursions, because I just think it's a huge aspect of education. And as I said, it is educational tourism.
Yeah. There's one more. I say, what do you suggest to motivate students to improve writing? Motivate students to improve. This would be a perfect thing, that if you were doing a course with CES, teacher training course, we could look at lots of different aspects on motivating students to learn, or students to learn writing, reading, speaking and listening. Just because I've got 1 minute left, all I'm going to try to do is say that's something we can really dig into. Like, there's loads of different things we can look at for motivation in writing, but I can't do it now.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that okay? I think that's it.
Yes. The session it's actually live on YouTube. So if anyone wants to rewatch it or watch it from the beginning, you can do that. It will stay there. It's just the last kind of thing that. So the website that you developed, the materials, they are free, right? So the ones that you shared, the direct learning, right? This one.
Yeah, everything's free. Yeah, everything. So
right.
that platform is currently free. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you please share that on your screen and kind of take people through it? Just the 1 minute.
Yeah. Let me just
so that people kind of see how to use it.
It's really basic. Again, when we look at friction factors, we've tried to reduce any of the possible friction factors in it. So when you go, when you land on the homepage, you know, CES Direct Learning of Uzbekistan, because it's specifically for the teachers of Uzbekistan. You unfortunately get my lovely face there. And there's only 2 big pages. The first page is information, and that's going to give you some information on the school, on CES. And also we've got a video on how to use the website, and then a timetable of, and then secondly, we've got lessons table. It lasted for so long. When you go into lessons, if the internet lets me go into lessons, it's going to give me, I'll just go down to the very bottom. Week 1, I posted session 1. Week 2, obviously session and then currently it's a feedback, there's mid-course feedback, and there's this assessment starts on, go to session 1. What you will do as a student, you'll see, welcome to session 1. We're focusing on countable, uncountable nouns. To the lesson, what we're going to study, learning outcome, and then we have some content here. So this is your slides, which is basically your whiteboard, your what's happening in the lesson, and then your document to fill in your answers, or you could use it on Google Docs, and then lots of people or whatever else, and we've try to respond to them as much as possible. Fires, you can go into this if it does open, and it's a similar layout. We have what's the content of the lesson, much, many, follow the key ideas and extended text, some background on quantifiers, more material that you can use the answers. And I've added in a thing there for teachers in it to add in some teaching ideas on how they would actually, a couple of teachers who can go through and they can give you some advice on what's happening with that lesson and stuff like that. So this is what the platform looks like. As I said, it's completely free, and there's a new lesson every week. Next week is the assessment week, so you'll see coming Sunday, be Sunday morning for me, so Sunday afternoon for you guys. There will be a test which you can do on Google Forms, and that's just a mid-course assessment. Sounds okay?
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much, Chris. Yes, and Michael. Thanks.
No
I think that was yeah, amazing material. So I think we got everything, right? We got the information, we got ideas to think about, and we got the resources, right? So everything we need. Thank you so much.
Any questions? As we said, Michael has my email and his email there. Any questions, just let me know. I know that was a short hour, but we're happy to follow up and support in any way we can.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Chris. Yeah.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for participation.
Super, my pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Good morning, good
Bye-bye,
afternoon, and good evening, everybody. See you later.